Vietnam. His late father was involved in the French War and joined the Army of Vietnam in 1955 and fought until his retirement in 1973. Quang's oldest brother served with the Vietnamese 2nd Airborne, and his other brother served as an Army medic with the Vietnamese Army. Quang travels around the United States to speak to Vietnam veterans, to say thank you, because some of them didn't get that when they came home. And so he feels just compelled to say, it's because of you that I have my freedom and my liberty. He calls our Vietnam veterans his founding fathers. Quang and I are friends on Facebook, and I call him the traveling man, because he is always somewhere, speaking somewhere. It's just such an honor for us to have him. You know, he lives here today in Prescott Valley with his wife Mai and children Casey and Sarah. And Quang is also the producer of Patriot News TV. And if you don't know about that, I ask you to check it out. And Quang, maybe you can mention it. He does some great work with that. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome our friend, Quang Nguyen.
Thank you so much for inviting me. You never know where you're going to be when you get up here and all of a sudden there are 450 people in front of you. Not sure if I should be speaking English or not, but in any event, I got to this country about nearly 40 years ago. I came to the United States and, as a Vietnam War refugee at the age of 12. And I really didn't understand the meaning of freedom until somebody actually taught me that. Because of all the Vietnam vets that spent so much time, effort, bleeding, and you gave us 58,000. That's the reason why I'm standing up here. That's the reason why we have 1.7 million Vietnamese people living in freedom throughout the 50 states. And for that, just so you know, we as a family will always be grateful. Now, so just real quickly, how many of you served in Vietnam? Could you raise your hands, please? All right. So, how many of you were there between 1959 and 1971? Please keep your hands up. So you know I'm still looking for my daddy. It's kind of funny how anxious you get your hands up and... Hi, Dad. How quickly you also pull your hands down. I spoke to a Vietnam reunion in Las Vegas a couple of years ago, and I ran up to him and I said, "Hi, Dad. How you doing?" His reply to me was, "I was never in Vietnam." You got me mixed up with somebody else. Well, it's all fun and game, but I grew up 200 miles northeast of Saigon, just right below the Second Corps. And I really didn't know the area I grew up because shortly after that, my dad had an assignment in Bangkok and he moved away. And so for 2 years, I think my mom put it this way, it was the best 2 years of our lives because we actually got away from the hellhole. And then we came back to the hellhole after 2 years. But that's okay. I also understand the majority of you came home from Vietnam. And by the way, I haven't forgotten about the World War II veterans and the current wars and Korean War veterans. I just happen to know a lot of Vietnam vets. And so when we get back, so I understand how you feel when you came home without a parade, a thank you, and a lot of you got a lot of negative things that happened to you. To give you an example of what happened to my oldest brother, who served alongside with you and was injured 3 times and always came back to serve his country from 1968 to 1975. He was in California. He made it to California and somebody asked him and said, "So what were you doing in Vietnam?" And he said, I was a proud airborne soldier. I served my country from 68 to 75. I was a captain. And the gentleman looked at him and said, "Well, sir, you're a coward because you couldn't hold on to your country. You couldn't fight for your country. You needed us. And so you're just a coward." From that point on, my brother never spoke about his career anymore. Until this day, when you ask him what he did for his time in Vietnam, he'll tell you, "I was a rice farmer." That's all he'll ever say to you. So I understand. And that's the reason why I travel, because I'm not just an American citizen. I'm proud to be an American citizen, but I'm speaking to you as an immigrant. Somebody that benefited from your sacrifice, your blood and your sweat. And so that's important for me to let you know that from my perspective. No matter how the war ended politically, funny how politicians always fought wars and they also always ended, for the most part, at the wrong time. And so, when politicians do things like that, they don't realize that shortly after 1975, 2 million Cambodians were killed, slaughtered in the rice fields. I have a cousin that was executed in a re-education camp. And for what? You know, he was a pharmacist. He was also in the same airborne unit as my brother. His job was to make sure to cure wounded soldiers, make sure they get the right medication. And when he escaped, they caught him and executed him in the front gate as an example for all to see. So as you know, when the war ended, it ended for a lot of people, but at the same time, it didn't end for a whole lot of people. And I know many of you are walking around carrying a lot of heavy wounds. And I hope when I speak to you, I don't bring up those ugly memories. But I just want to let you know that because of you, you have laid down the foundation for my family. And that's the reason why we are where we are today. And for that, we are forever grateful. Let me share to you one personal story. I was at Camp Pendleton for one night as I traveled through the United States from Subic Bay, Guam, San Francisco, Camp Pendleton, Fort Chaffee, and so on and on and on, floating around as a little kid with no family. I got to Camp Pendleton. I was there for only one day. It was a mid-May, and it was extremely, for us, this was extremely cold, and I just had a shirt and a pair of shorts on. And this young Marine walked by. He took his jacket off, and he put it on my shoulder, and he slapped me on the butt. I didn't understand what it was all about, but all I knew is I was warm then. It was awesome. He looked at me, smiled, and walked away. I wore that jacket for years, throughout my high school years. And when I went to college, I left it at home, and I came home from college one day, and my jacket was gone. Everything was gone out of my closet. My dad thought, you know, he just didn't need it anymore. So he gave it away to the kids across the street. Well, I came out and saw the kid wearing the jacket one day, and I thought, hey, it fit him pretty well. You know, maybe it's for somebody else to wear. That's okay. So to fast forward to about 2 months ago, I belonged to a group of, if I may say, old Marines, and they call themselves old farts. And I'm an honorary member of the Chesapeake Club, and every Friday evening we get together and we play pool. And we play till midnight sometime. Learn how to drink beer, swear. That's awesome. Anything inside a Chesapeake Club stays inside a Chesapeake Club. So they were telling stories about Camp Pendleton, and I didn't have a story to tell. But they're all looking at me, and they're like, weren't you at Camp Pendleton? I said, yeah, I was there for one night. So I told them the story about my jacket. That's the only thing I had to remember of Camp Pendleton. Then one by one they left. I had to go home and take my dog out. My wife is waiting for me at home, and so on. And it was just myself and the host, and we spoke until about midnight, just about things, random things. And then he excused himself for about 15 minutes. He had to go to the bathroom. He came back, and we chatted some more, and I left at midnight. I came out. There was something hanging on the side of my car. I picked it up. It was a green jacket. captain bars and all on the jacket. So I walked back into the pool room and knocked on the door and I said, "What are you doing?" He looked at me and he said, "Well, this one's going to keep you warm for the rest of your life." Why am I telling you this story? I'm telling you the story because many of you have taken care of us back then. You gave us your lives, you gave us your blood and your sweat. And then 40 years later, you're still trying to keep me warm. It's amazing. So I thank you to the World War II veterans. I thank you for allowing me to learn about the greatest generation. I thank you for keeping us from speaking German. To the Korean War veterans, I thank you for keeping the doughboy where he's at today. For the Vietnam veterans, I thank you for my life, my liberty, my freedom. And to the current wars, I thank you for keeping it over there and not over here. With that being said, I thank you for having me here. And I said, thank you a lot, don't I? But God bless you all. God bless America. And I couldn't be here without you. So thank you for teaching me about freedom. Thank you for teaching me about this great piece of paper called the Constitution. And I will always honor that, to honor you. Take care.